Deal with a couple of amendment questions here. We'd like to know each of your stands on the Second Amendment as it exists today in interpretation and the threats against it. Mr. Auden, why don't you begin?
Sure, I believe both my opponents have said the construction is so mine. Second Amendment is what it is and should stay the way it is.
Mr. Quinn?
I support the Second Amendment, and it says what it says, nothing more, nothing less. Anybody know what they say in the communist world? What's the first thing you do if you want to take control? First, take their guns. There's a reason why the Second Amendment is there, and it's to protect us. And those that are in favor of gun rights have a fundamental flaw in their assumptions about gun control laws. They assume that the people that are breaking the laws and shooting people with guns are the ones that are going to actually follow the rules. All gun control laws do is hurt innocent people who are law-abiding citizens. It's that simple.
I also support the Second Amendment for many of the same reasons that you just heard. One personal example, a friend of mine was up in Toronto recently. They do have gun control laws that prevent anyone from having guns. He was told where he better not go, simply because there were folks there that had guns, and apparently illegally, and wanted to use them for illicit purposes.
Well, a follow-up with each of you, just a yes or no. Would you be for or against a federal assault weapons ban reinstatement? Anybody yes?
Sorry.
You know, the assault weapons ban listens. Would you vote, if it came before you, to reinstate or for a new federal assault weapons ban?
I would not vote for an assault weapons ban.
No.
Mr. Adcock, no?
I'm undecided. I don't know enough about it. I need to research it to its fullest.
All right, let's move on to this question about the 10th Amendment. And I feel awkward about asking this one. And there's a couple of these that we fall into this category where you ask the first person and then it gives the others time to think, but that's just the nature of the beast here. Explain the meaning of the 10th Amendment, what it means to you, its relevance today, where it ought to be changed in terms of interpretation or not. Mr. Quinter, can you begin?
Sure, I'd be happy to begin. Here's what the 10th Amendment means to me. You can sum it up in Ronald Reagan's inaugural address. It's time that we recognize, and I don't know if these are the exact words he used, the distinction between the powers granted to the federal government and those reserved to the states and to the people. It's that simple, folks. Not any more complicated than that. The second part of his statement was as follows. It's time to remember that the states created the federal government. The federal government did not create the states. Power is best when it's left closest to home, with the individual and the family, and growing it out from there. We have too much of a propensity to centralize power in Washington right now. A good example is the health care bill and all these other pieces of legislation coming down the road. Now, I don't know about you, but when the federal government, who's already spending 51 cents of every dollar in the health care business and broken it, comes to me and says, we want more power, my reaction generally is, you know, guys, you already broke it. Why would I give you more control? So I support the 10th Amendment, and it means what it says, and it's that simple.
Mr. Adcock?
I also support the 10th Amendment. There's a saying that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. There was balance of power built into the Constitution within the branches, and there was also the definitions within the Constitution of what the federal government should be doing with all the remaining powers left at the state level. Certainly state and local government where local people can have real influence on their guidance and their direction is the strongest way to go.
Surprise, I also support the 10th Amendment. I feel this administration is trying to grow and grow the government. I think the states need to, I support state rights, plain and simple.
We touched on this in the foreign policy segment, but there was a question that came in afterwards, so there may be some clarity that's needed. Will each of you say succinctly where you stand in your support of Israel? Is there any way of separating where each of you stands from that, or where you are on the spectrum of support for Israel, Mr. Adcock?
I strongly support Israel. Israel is the one ally that we have ever had in our whole history, whom we have never had to shed American blood to defend. They have been a good ally. They share our principles. They share our precepts. It is a democracy in the Middle East. There's, I am a person who is loyal and supports those who support us and our friends. To our enemies and to those who are, indifferent, I would be indifferent toward them. But Israel has clearly been one of our strongest allies since their inception.
Strong.
Israel, just like you said, Israel's been our strongest ally since 1947. We need to support Israel. They're obviously going through some tough times these days. We need to maintain that friendship. And that's it. We need to maintain support of Israel and continue that support.
From my perspective, you won't find a person that more strongly supports Israel in terms of American policy. I think it goes even beyond that. It's beyond being their friend and their ally. We have a solemn responsibility and obligation to the Israelis. They have been our closest ally in the Middle East for many, many years. And we have a responsibility to them to look out for them. And that responsibility and that relationship is dying on the vine due to the current administration. Less than 10% of Israelis think that we'll actually intervene or support them if something should happen. That's a problem. We have a lot of work to do with the Israelis to reassure them and tell them we're going to be for them. And I would be a very vocal supporter of Israel in every circumstance that I have the opportunity to do it.
All right, this is a sort of an amalgam of similar thoughts here. Who are you, media people, are you closest to in your opinions? And we'd just like to go real quick, pick up the mic, just shout it out. Are you closest to which of these four? Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Oprah. Mr. Adcock. You can pass if you like, I guess, if you want, but it's an interesting non-question.
One of the things that make town hall so much fun is getting interesting questions. I don't know, because I don't study them, but Glenn Beck seems to be a rule of law kind of person, that the law is supreme. Certainly the Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
All right, well, that's fine. We'll go down the line there, Mr. Hawkins.
Yeah, I'm a better looking version of all three.
He said he's a better looking version of all three, so I'll let you judge. I think it's a trick question, and here's why I say that. I don't think there's a lot of difference between these guys. They're all conservatives, they're all for the Constitution, and they're all for getting the government going back in the right direction. Now, they may have slight varying views on how we get there, but they still have very central core conservative principles, and they don't twist in the wind. They take their principles and they apply them to the problems. So I think it's a little bit of a trick question. I
assume you took Oprah out of it.
From my perspective, I'll take all the above because there's a little of all.
Except for Oprah.
Except Oprah.
Okay.
Except
Let me clear.
Let me just clarify that.
Gotta have sense